All over the world are on edge after this terrorist attack that, again, this time happened in Nice, France.
Joining us on the phone, the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff. Congressman, good morning to you. Sadly, another day, another horrific attack. We know that you've been briefed by the Department of Homeland Security on the events in Nice. What can you tell us about who was responsible for this attack?
We still don't know a lot about the attacker. We had a lot of intelligence before this attack that there were plots, for example, against the European soccer championship, that there were many foreign fighters that had returned from Syria and Iraq to places like Belgium and France. But no advanced notice that I'm aware of that anyone was planning a truck-based attack like this one. That may indicate that this was a lone attacker, somebody whose life was falling apart. There have been public reports that he was in the midst of a divorce, had just lost his job, who at the same time was amenable to this radical propaganda by ISIS. So it may turn out to be another homegrown extremist, another person effectively propagandized through social media.
And speaking of social media, you tweeted yesterday that this is part of a month of madness and inhumanity. And I think people would agree that carnage at the airport in Istanbul, the attacks in Orlando. Who are these barbaric people? What do they want, and how does killing innocent people advance their cause, whatever it is?
Well, it's a great question. Part of it is this propaganda about establishing a caliphate in Iraq and Syria that has attracted many followers around the world. The imposition of this perverted version of Islam that really is at odds with the teaching of Islam, but nonetheless has many adherents. And so they want to build this caliphate. And part of it is embarking on this attack on the West, an attack on really anyone who doesn't subscribe to this narrow and bloodthirsty view of things. So they murder fellow Muslims, they murder Christians and Jews, they murder civilians, men, women, and children alike. And part of this is an effort to draw us in more fully to the armed conflict in Syria and Iraq with a kind of apocalyptic vision of a final confrontation with the West. So it's a complex phenomenon, and one that we need our allies in the Muslim world to push it back against vigorously, because the U.S. government doesn't have much credibility in speaking about what Islam is and what it isn't. So we really need our Muslim allies to be out there fighting the ideological war as well as the war on the ground.
I think what's scary for so many of us is they find a new way to terrorize. This was the first time someone started shooting at a crowd and then ran over as many people as possible with that truck, many of them children. Do you think we could see something like this again?
We certainly could see copycats, and there have been smaller truck-based attacks that we saw, for example, in Canada, when a couple of their police were killed by someone driving in a vehicle who purposely attacked them. ISIS and Al-Qaeda have urged their followers to use cars, to use knives, to use guns, to use whatever they have handy. And this is a new vulnerability that we're going to have to be studying and determine what additional precautions we can take. The reality is that, our best defense is trying to prevent foreign fighters from coming to the United States, and also attacking the radicalization of people online, because they can use a variety of different instrumentalities, everything from a truck to a gun. You're never going to be able to protect against all these threats, and the best protection is probably going after this ideological magnet that ISIS provides and this caliphate provides.
A lot of Americans are traveling to Europe for summer vacation. Others headed to Brazil for the Olympics. As a senior member of the Intelligence Committee, you're privy to information that we are not. What do you know and what advice would you give us regarding travel this summer?
Well, it's a really hard question. We brought our family to Europe for the first time just a couple months ago, and the same thoughts ran through my head about whether that was prudent or safe for my family. I do think we have to put these threats in context. The odds of being harmed in a terrorist attack are still very small, but there are parts of the world that I wouldn't feel comfortable bringing my family to now. It's a broader list, frankly, than it used to be. But we don't want to change fundamentally the way we live, either at home or our ability to visit others around the world. So I think we need to act prudently. We should certainly be aware of State Department advisories about particular countries. If you're looking to travel, see what the State Department has to say, what warnings are out there, and then make the best informed judgment you can about what's right for your family.
Congressman, quickly before you go, we want to switch gears and ask you about another big story today. The classified papers revealing Saudi Arabia's alleged ties to 9/11 are set to be released. You've seen these pages. What can we expect to learn from them today?
Well, I think there's a very good chance that they will be provided quite imminently to the Hill, and that we will release them, that we will vote to make them public, and that's the right decision. It will look like a police report. There'll be a lot of allegations. There'll be circumstantial evidence of Saudi connections with the plot. Those allegations were investigated by the 9/11 Commission. I know this is confusing for many people, but there was a joint congressional inquiry into 9/11. This is part of that report. That was followed by the 9/11 Commission. The Commission was never able to really corroborate these allegations, couldn't find high ties to senior Saudi government officials or the government per se. But nonetheless, people are going to see things that look suspicious, and it will raise a lot of questions.
Well, Congressman Adam Schiff, we're always grateful for your insight into these situations. We unfortunately have to talk to you far too often about them, but we are grateful. Thank you very much, sir.